Hello again, I am Blunty, and this cute little fellow has just become my new personal go-to device for capturing gameplay. Both recording it for reviews and let's play stuff and things, but also for live capture for Twitch streaming and the like. The more dedicated fan types around here may already know that for some time now my go-to capture device has been the Live Gamer Portable. I've praised it for its clean capture, its easy setup and nice software, and I've recommended it for a couple of years now, and it's still a great device. And when I have need of an external capture device, I'm sure I'll put it back into service. But for now, it's largely retired, because from now on, the Elgato Game Capture HD60 Pro here will be my #1 guy for a variety of reasons. As you can see, it's an internal capture device, so if you're living the laptop lifestyle, all you can do is pout with envy right about now. But for those of you who are serious enough about such things to be running a desktop PC for play and capture, this is Elgato's latest and indeed greatest, and it's well worth looking into. Physically, it's a small, stealthy looking PCIe X1 device, and well, that's about it physically, isn't it? I do kind of wish it had a backplate, but frankly in most systems it's so small and shallow you'll barely see it anyway, but still, a backplate would have been nice to complete the stealthy aesthetics. But anyway, let's hit the important stuff, the functionality. As the name implies, it captures at up to 1080p 60 frames per second, and before we go much further, I want to tell you right now, it does this very nicely indeed. The recordings are superbly smooth and very, very clean. It has an HDMI in and a direct pass-through one to feed your signal untouched back out again, so you don't even need to worry about splitters and such. You can just feed your console through the device. It has onboard H.264 hardware encoding, which both keeps the file sizes manageable and provides you with a feed in the software that has virtually zero delay. Now, Elgato claim that there's no delay, and under certain use cases that's true enough to never really be worth challenging. For example, if you're doing a Let's Play or a live stream and you're continuously commenting on your gameplay, while some capture devices will generate a significant delay between the capture recording and the real-time microphone input, which makes everything out of sync and usually quite distracting for your viewers. So you either have to fix this synchronization issue in post, and hopefully you recorded your mic separately, otherwise that will be impossible, or you have to use some kind of software solution to manually delay your microphone feed so it syncs up properly with your delayed gameplay footage. And that's what Elgato are getting at with the whole zero delay thing. With the HD60 Pro, you never ever have to worry about microphone sync because what's being recorded is, for any practical purpose, absolutely in sync with your actual live gameplay on your TV. But there is a very small delay, something surely most people will never notice, but for the sake of being thorough, and you may be able to see it for yourself, there is a very slight delay between the pure feed from the console compared to what the software is seeing and displaying on your PC. And if I slow things down for you to 1/4 of normal speed, you can see it much easier. And I did manually step through this footage 1 frame at a time, which I recorded on a 1080p 60p camera, and I found a delay of no more than 5 frames. And 5 frames at 60 frames per second is just about 80 milliseconds. And in comparative terms, unless your TV has a special low latency game mode on its HDMI inputs, chances are you're already gaming with an input lag somewhere around this area, maybe even worse. But in the practical sense, if you were looking to use the recording software's preview feed to actually use while you are gaming, that's certainly possible. And I'm sure the more dedicated high-twitch, very anal shooter types may have an issue here, but for 80% of games, well, 90%, 95% of games, well, 94% of games, let's call it, this kind of delay is unlikely to cause any performance issues when it comes to your input and reaction speed. And just while we're in the world of comparisons, one very clear way I can show you just how clean and crispy the recording is on the HD60 Pro is to show you a comparison to a gameplay recording function we all already have and are familiar with. At least those of you with Xbox Ones or PS4s, which, let's face it, if you are looking for a capture device like this one, chances are pretty high that you're looking to capture from one of these two devices. So firstly, and most obviously, the built-in recording on both consoles is not 60 frames per second, regardless of whether or not the game being played is running at 60 frames per second or not. And of course, unless you're playing this back on YouTube in a YouTube quality setting that feeds out 60p, it's going to be tough to spot. But the difference can be quite drastically demonstrated if I slow things down again. And maybe 60 FPS recording is a high priority thing for you, maybe it's not. But even if you're uploading to YouTube at 30 frames per second, 60 FPS footage can still be nice in the edit because it will let you play back cool looking action at half speed and still keep it looking liquid smooth. But the 60p thing is far from the only major benefit of doing things properly with a good capture device like this one. Let me show you what I'm on about. I'm going to crop in, blow things up, make it really clear for you just how muddy and smeared the image is from the built-in recording stuff, all due to far too aggressive compression. This isn't just pixel peeping nitpicky video nerd stuff here, it's a night and day difference between your recording looking clean or it being a smudged mess. And if you're doing anything more than squirting up 15-second clips of funny grenade sticks or something, then production quality really should be something you're poking at. And yes, if you're a PC gamer and you'd like to use this device for capture or streaming, even if it's doing so from the very same PC that you're gaming on, and this is a question I always get asked when I review a capture device, well yes, it is absolutely possible. You do need to make sure you do things like keeping your game running in full screen borderless windowed mode or things get a bit janky, but it is easily accomplished. And all the same things apply here as they do with the console capture. You still use the HDMI pass-through to go from your graphics card output into the HD60 Pro and then out again to your monitor for a nice clean untouched signal feed, and you still get the few frames of delay in the software, and because the device has its own H.264 encoder, you're not sucking away excessive CPU cycles from the actual game for the compression and recording. Personally though, I'll be sticking with Nvidia's built-in capture stuff. It works crazy well, and unlike the built-in recording stuff on the consoles, the Nvidia GPUs can record at 60 frames per second and at high bit rates for super clean recordings. But if you want to use the Elgato for recording, you sure can. And there are a couple of good reasons you may want to. Firstly, Elgato have made massive improvements to their software. The last time I reviewed an Elgato capture device, I liked it, sure, but the software was always a bit clumsy and a bit of a pain in the ass. But now, oh my god, it's a whole new world. It's clean, sensible, fast, stable, easy to use and set up. Everything you need is sitting right there in your face. Stuff like game audio level adjustment and live view monitoring. The same with the microphone settings and adjustment of the level monitoring and input sources. It even has a multi-scene live mixing panel so you can live mix overlays while you're recording, or more likely while you're streaming. Up to 10 different scenes can all be set up individually, so you can, for example, have one clean view of the game, one with a webcam overlay, or your logos, or animated GIFs. It even has green screen chroma keying built right in, so you can do that nifty little trick where you sort of hover in front of your game. You can use any custom image you like for overlays, you can slap your branding on there. You've got control over transparency and opacity and layering. You can pull in stuff from live websites for the chat room or live follow and donation notifications if that's how you roll on Twitch. It's much more powerful than I'd expected, but not quite as flexible or as customizable as OBS or XSplit. For example, you can't actually resize or reposition the game capture feed at all, and that alone will limit your layout choices, but it's certainly easier to set up than OBS. One key missing feature though that really does frustrate me is the ability to set hotkeys for switching between scenes, something I consider vital, because right now the only way to switch scenes is to grab your mouse and click on them, manually. There's also a built-in basic video editor for snipping out the good bits and pasting them together. Again, it's not as sophisticated or as powerful as a proper full-on video editor, but it's certainly functional enough to get the job done for sharing fun clips. It even has presets for sharing to various places, YouTube, Twitter, your iPhone, all that kind of stuff. Back on the recording page, there's a few more things I need to show you. It has what they're calling flashback recording, which to you and me is just buffered recording. It means you can just let the software run and it'll keep a temporarily buffered recording of the last 5 minutes of the feed. So you can be playing, and if something cool happens, you can just slide back to where it started, press record, and keep going. You don't have to record everything to make sure you don't miss out on something cool. But here is my absolute favorite new trick. They call it Master Copy, and it is beautiful. The software has a setting that will actually record your microphone feed and your webcam and your gameplay all to separate files simultaneously. Even if, and simultaneously too, you are streaming with everything all mixed out to Twitch. And it does this not in the highly compressed bitrate that Twitch needs, but in the full quality of the capture device. So, for those of you who stream live to Twitch but also like to record locally for later editing or uploading to YouTube or just for archival purposes, you can now have your mic, your gameplay, and your webcam all in discrete files for unprecedented flexibility and control in the final edit. I've been dreaming of functionality like this for years, and Elgato figured it out. It's brilliant. Oh, and of course, yes, if you'd rather stick with OBS or whatever other streaming software you prefer, the HD60 Pro does naturally happily throw its feed into the standard source options into the likes of OBS. You'll miss out on that sweet-ass master copy trick, but you do get all the extra control over your layouts that OBS has over Elgato's own scene options. So, for the super low latency feed, the HDMI pass-through, the 60 frames per second 1080p capture at super clean bit rates of up to 60 megabits per second, the fact that use and setup is much cleaner and nicer than using an external capture device, I even save a USB port, the nifty software tricks it can do, the onboard H.264 processing, the software being surprisingly improved in both function and user interface and performance over the little mess that Elgato's game capture software used to be. It still has some missing functionality I'd like to see, and there's room for improvement in other areas, but it blew way past my expectations. For all of these things and a bunch of other little things, the HD60 Pro knocks it out of the park for me. It's an absolute no-brainer how this thing has become my new go-to gear for game capture. In earlier days, Elgato was pretty much the undisputed king of capture devices. Then the competition got aggressive, and Elgato lost a bit of ground, but the HD60 Pro, as far as I'm concerned, puts them right back at the top of the hill. And I know I gushed a lot in this review, but I really am honestly very, very impressed with this little bastard. Absolutely worth a good, hard, long look if you're serious about kicking up your game capture production quality, and frankly, ease of use. So drop a comment, tell me what you are currently using for capture, and if you think this thing's going to make a big improvement in your life, do the thing with the buttons if you'd be so kind. Meanwhile, thanks for watching, I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.